Hey folks, Ryan here. How's it going? Let's make sure my audio is working, huh?
How's it going?
Yep, sounds like we're good. All right. Thanks for tuning in this week. We are doing some prep work for next week, and we're hoping that Mark feels better and that Cameron gets back safely from his trip for his sister's graduation, not his, but we're glad that we're excited for next week that we're playing Pathfinder. We're doing the intro box, the beginner box, and so what I'm doing this week is just prepping some stuff for that adventure and going to look up some rules that I'm not going to be very sure of yet. So I want to make sure that we get them right next week in the stream, so we're going to be doing that. So welcome everybody. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, all right. So let's take a look at some stuff, huh? So, all right, let's swap over to roll 20. We'll start here. That'll be good. Okay. So one of the cool things that this comes with is a big old map. And I'm going to go see if I can get a PDF version of the actual map. But here it is. You got it? And it unfolds. And there's a ton of cool design work in here and everything. That's really nice. I'm going to see if I can find a PDF version of that I can just buy. I've got the box set, but I don't have the PDF version, so it's hard to reference some of the things online like I want to. The box also comes with the Hero's Handbook, which is really useful. Players can read that. They can create some basic characters with it, although it does come with some preset characters, and it walks you through all of that. And it has some rules stuff that we're going to be referencing in just a minute as far as combat goes. A lot of stuff is going to be similar to D&D. And this is the second edition of Pathfinder, so a lot of stuff has also changed from the version that I'm familiar with, which is the first version of Pathfinder, which was the spiritual successor to 3.5 edition back in the day. So, of D&D. Anyway, Hero's Book. You also get the Game Master's Guide for this. It is small, but it's packed full of a lot of good information. I feel like reading through this, I pretty much understand the game. And there's, obviously I have the main handbook as well. And thanks, Jared, for that. Appreciate that. That was a great Christmas present to get before they all sold out earlier this year. But it's got everything that I needed as a game master that I felt like I had questions on. There are a couple of things as far as combat goes. There's also like a quick rules reference on the back. There you go. And we also have a bunch of tokens. That's awesome. Some player reference cards. My mouse battery is in the box for some reason. Reference cards, which is great, including some conditions that I wanted to talk about that are going to come in handy on this. And these character sheets that are really fun because these are like the main lore characters in Pathfinder. There is a card game that you can get, the Pathfinder collectible card game, that you can actually play these characters in that too. And so that was really fun for me. I have those sets. I played through them, so I'm actually familiar with a lot of the lore, which was fun to see all them pop up in here. Anyway, there's Kira. We also have the Wizard. Those are the blank character sheets. Where'd you guys go? Did I lose you already? Okay. You have Valeros the Fighter. Merciel, the elf rogue, and Ezrin the wizard. So you get your basic party that you can play around with in this very first one, just to get you introduced to some of the mechanics and stuff. And they all have tokens that come with them too. So that's kind of fun as well. All right. The map. This is a map that I found on Reddit of a guy who went through and did a JPEG of his own drawings of what the map would look like. And so I've got this loaded up in Roll20. This is what we're going to use. The basic adventure starts here. You are, dang it, what's the name of the city? Otari. So you are exploring the sewers and dungeons underneath Otari to find out what is going on with a bunch of disturbances that have been happening. And it starts out in the basement, and you fight some rats. This is a fun for me because this is how it starts out in like the Baldur's Gate 2 game. You can play it on PlayStation 2 or on PC. And I played through, this was one of the first games I played through with my wife. And that was a lot of fun. And the first thing you do is you start off fighting rats in the basement for somebody. Here's what you're going to do as well. Then you come down here into the sewers. Let's see if that's showing up. Yeah, great. And explore. There's some skill checks they introduce you to in this room. Up here you have a chance to avoid combat, or you fight a big giant spider. And then up a ways, there's a barrier that you can break through or not. And then you discover that there are zombies. There's a shrine. There's zombies in here and skeletons. There's a shrine to them. They've been resurrecting them and such. And then there's a second level below this as well. I think that knowing our group and the pacing, that in 2 hours, we're probably going to, here's the second level. And you just come down and you explore more about what's going on with these zombies. And there's a bunch of kobolds and stuff like that down here as well that you end up fighting and getting rid of to free Otari from all the danger that's going on there. I think that this first level is going to be enough for a 2-hour deal. And I say that having played this once with Jared as well, where he came in and showed my kids how to play and introduced them to that for my Dads and Dragons podcast, which if you're interested, you can check out Dads and Dragons on anywhere you get podcasts. And I play with my kids, and then I talk about what it's like to play with kids afterwards, and it's a lot of fun. We spent a night learning how to play Pathfinder with our friend Jared from the stream, and we got through the first bit of this up through the spider web in about 2 hours. And I think that with this group, we're a little bit more focused and stuff, and I'll have everything ready. We'll probably get up through the zombies. I don't think we're going to make it to the second floor, so I'm not going to prep anything for that this session. But there are a couple things that I wanted to go over with everybody just so you see what kind of adventure this is, and I wanted to show you how it's going to be a really good teaching tool for people as well. Okay. In this very first room, like I said, you fight a bunch of rats. And there's a lot of good description, a lot of good flavor stuff in here. Talks about using some skill checks in here to investigate, and then you get right into combat as these rats come out at you. There's one rat for everybody, so you don't have to worry about people ganging up on stuff if they don't. I guess they could if they want to, but the rats are easy to fight. They've got an AC of 15 and only 8 hit points. So you're going to go 2 rounds with these guys at most, unless people keep missing a lot. Anyway, so it just talks about initiative. Initiative in here is your perception or sometimes your stealth. And that's different from D&D right off the bat. And so I'm just going to highlight some of the differences as we go through. But sometimes you can roll, if you're sneaking up ahead and you want to get a chance to surprise somebody, you can roll your stealth for your initiative instead of your regular initiative roll too. So that's kind of fun. Here you'll get introduced to actions where you can take up to 3 actions of any different kinds of things, and I'm going to read through the different actions that you can do. That's one of the things I want to look up and make sure I'm familiar with myself that I don't have down yet. So there's a whole list of different actions you can have, and they have slightly different names from things. See, instead of just like moving, they call it stride, and stride's an action. And you could do that 3 times and move up to 90 feet or whatever your speed is, right? So the other one that they have are attacks. And what's interesting is that you can make 3 attacks at level 1 if you want to. What happens is that you roll to hit normally for the first attack. On the second attack, you roll and you take -5 on the attack roll. And then on the third one, you would roll and you'd take -10 to hit on that third try. So if, you got really lucky and you hit 3 times, even just 2 times, this will be a really short piece of combat where these rats should be wiped out pretty fast. Which they should be, they're rats. But the rats introduce you to a break in the wall, and you find a ledge that you have to navigate your way down. And here we get to introduce to skill checks. In skill checks, they have some recommended difficulty levels back in the back. And they say that, what I like about these skill checks are the difficulties are based on whether or not somebody is untrained, or whether or not you could do it untrained, if you should probably be trained in it, if you should probably be an expert in it, or if you should probably be a master in it. So if it's something that anybody can do untrained, then the DC is a 10 or higher. If it's something that you should probably be trained in, then it's a 15 or higher. If you need to be an expert in it, then the DC is a 20 or higher. And if you should be a master at whatever this is to accomplish it, then the DC is a 30 or higher, which I like, and I've been doing just mentally in games for a long time, except that I don't usually like 10 for a difficulty. I like 11s and 12s, just so that it's slightly harder than a 50-50 shot on a dice, because in D&D 5e you have proficiency levels anyway, right? So you're automatically going to be better than 50-50 shot at something. And if I want it to be something that is at least a 50-50 shot, then try and make that about 12 or 13 or so sometimes. Anyway, I really like that. It's kind of cool. And then we also have difficulty check adjustments that you can make. If something's supposed to be incredibly hard, then you add 10 to it. If it's supposed to be easy, then you subtract 2 from the roll. Stuff like that. I really like that it's in here and it's a good chart. This is something that I would expect to see on the inside of a DM screen, and something that used to be on good DM screens. I haven't used one in a long time because I've been using a laptop for forever, and this screen for the game. So I haven't had a DM screen in a long time, and I used to make good use of them. And you know what? I probably should get one again, because that's where all of these charts should go, so I don't have to reference them in the back of a book all the time. Okay, so here we're going to get skill checks to make an athletics skill check to climb down, and this is where you get to introduce things like if they use a rope to make it easier, then we're going to lower the difficulty from a 15 down to a 10 because they're using a rope, or from a 15 to a 13 to help them out. Stuff like that. And in fact, it gives them, it says instead give them a circumstance bonus, a +1 or a +2 if they're assisting somebody. So it's the same thing. Mathematically speaking, you're the same way. The other thing that I need to look up, and we're going to look up during this stream, is what it's talking about with experience points. When I was reading back here, so for doing this task, everybody should get 10 experience points. For beating the rats before each hero should get 80 experience points. And when I was reading about experience points in this book, I was led to believe, or the way that I understood it, was that you're going to get standard experience. That's treasure. Go back one. That's challenges. That's drawing maps. Come on. Experience points. Okay, so at 1,000 XP, you level up to level 2. When I read through this the first time, it felt like that would be the same every time, and there would be like, for a minor accomplishment, you get 10, for a moderate, you get 30 XP, and for a major accomplishment, you get 80 XP. So I thought that was cool and a good way to break that up, but it looks like they do have some charts and stuff. I'll have to look up. I wanted to look up how the XP scales. If it's like third edition where it kind of scales exponentially and you have to divide things up based on what level you are compared to the level of the party. If it's like 5th edition where it's also kind of exponential, but it's, a lot of groups are just using milestone XP now in 5th edition too, which I kind of like, but at the same time, I do like things to be crunchy. I keep track, what I do with the group right now, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but I actually keep track of the XP in a spreadsheet for them, and I don't tell them how much they earn for everything. But then once they've hit that next level, then I tell them to level up. But I don't do it in the middle of the game. At the end of each session, I will go back and look at what we did in that session and just say, okay, this. That's how much XP they've got. And I do that also because people come and go, and we have guests on all the time and everything too. So it's a little hard to try and figure that out every time. And as we're going, I think it slows down the play of the game, and it's better just to do it at the end. And if the players want to know and want to keep track of it so they know how close they are, then great. If they don't care, then it's fine just to put it in a spreadsheet and let that do it. Anyway, that's part of my prep that I do before each game, is I figure out how close they are to leveling up. And sometimes I'll throw in a couple extra things to see if I can get them to do that. Okay, we're going to look at more about XP and different levels. Oh, here's what it is. At the very beginning paragraph of this, it says, when a hero reaches 1,000 XP or more, they level up. They reduce their current XP by 1,000 and increase their level by 1. This process is explained on page 72 of the Hero's Handbook. So we're going to read that and figure out more about what is going on there. And if second level is back and forth the same thing, always you have to get to 1,000, or if it's a different number, you have to get to every time. That's what I want to know. Okay, this third section is the spider's web. Here, they get a chance to make acrobatics checks to get through all these webs. And then if they fail, a big spider comes out and they have to fight it. And they can use, they're going to make saving throws against poison. And that's when our first conditions are going to come in. So each of these is each encounter is introducing a new part of Pathfinder, which is something I really like. And they're getting it in there early on. This next one is conditions. And conditions are kind of cool because they always have an in-game consequence that's unique to that condition. And so you can't really, and on the one side, so let's think this through. On the one side, when you get a condition in D&D, it's really easy to extrapolate like what that condition's doing to you. But on the other side, even though I'm going to have to be looking up conditions every time to see what they do, I do like that these things are kind of unique. And the flavor to these conditions is really fun. In this case, if the spider bites you and you miss your poison saving throw, which is really high, I thought, 16. It's a 16 fortitude save. Then the poison takes hold. They take an additional 1d12 additional damage, which is going to be huge at first level. And they gain a condition of the poison in this case gives them a flat-footed condition. It says, and then you can reference these on the back of these cards. The flat-footed condition says that it'll have a value. No, it won't have a value next to it. Some of them have a value. So this one says you take a -2 circumstance penalty to your armor class. Flanking makes you flat-footed only to creatures flanking you, but some effects make you flat-footed against everything. So this is going to... Yeah, okay. So this is just going to give you a -2 penalty to your armor class. All of a sudden now you're slow to move around. You're stumbling around a bunch, and it's hard for you to get out of the way of things. So a -2 penalty to armor class. The webbing in the spider's room can also trap you, and there's another condition. I'm going to have to read it in. I can't see it immediately, but it just means that you can't move. There we go. You have to try and escape from it, and that also is really high. 17 or higher to break with an acrobatics or athletics check. So, man, that is high for a first level party. This is going to be really dangerous, and we could even get to somebody dying or having to make death saves. So let's talk about that for a second. In 5th edition, you have death saves that are... hey, Lob. How's it going? It's good to see you again. So sorry I missed your message before, but I'm seeing it now and checking in on things. Glad you're in here and listening again. Yeah. In 5th edition, you have 3 chances to succeed at a death saving throw before you're back in the action. And if you fail 3 times, then you're dead for reals. In Pathfinder, and this is something I actually like a lot better in Pathfinder, is that you take on the death condition in Pathfinder, or dying condition, sorry, and that condition has a number next to it. So the first round that you're dying, it's a 1, and it goes up every round that you fail a death save. And the difficulty for that death save is 10 plus whatever the condition number is. So the very first round, it's an 11. If you get an 11 or higher, then your dying condition goes from 1 to 0. And now you're stabilized and you're not dying anymore. But we're going to keep track of how many times you've been dying every day, which I kind of like too, that there's a penalty to that as well. If you fail it, if you roll a 10 or lower, then your dying condition goes up to 2. And now the difficulty to beat is a 12. If you beat it, then your dying condition goes down 1. It goes down to dying 1. If your dying condition if you fail it though, again, it goes up to 3. And now you're at 13 or higher to beat it. And it's getting more and more intense. If it ever gets to 4, then you are dead. Your character is dead for real. If you can get it back down to 0 at any time, so if you can make 3 in a row, then if you're at 13, you can make 3 in a row, then you are stabilized again. But there's a chance to always get back, and you could go back and forth between 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1. You could be dying for a long time. Or you could fail 3 times in a row and just be in big trouble at that point. But that's the difference there. It's not exactly like tracking death saves, and it's not just a flat 10. It gets harder every time, the more trouble you're in. So it encourages your group not to just leave you there for 3 rounds before they decide, oh, wait, we can jump in and see what's going on there. And you know what? Something I was watching just this week that encouraged people to make death saves in private and in secret. So you would come over to the DM's screen and roll behind the screen, and then just your character and the DM would know what you rolled. And that would also encourage your party not to just leave you there for the entire time. I don't like that. I think that a character falling down should be an emergency. And in 5th edition D&D so far, it's been really like, oh, we've got 2 rounds before we have to do something for this guy. So sometimes that's fine, but it's kind of metagaming. In my mind, I don't like it. So we're going to say that, or I'm going to say that I like this method a little bit better, because each time you level up, the difficulty of making it gets harder, and that's a rough thing to be going through as a character when nobody's helping you out, and you're like, come on, this is not easy anymore. Let's help me out. But at the same time, you can get out of that condition there in the very first round, even though that will hang around for the future if you ever fall down again, or if you ever get back down to 0 hit points again. You're in big trouble. Okay, fighting the giant spider is not easy at first level. He has a 17 armor class and 16 hit points. So if everybody hits the first round, you might be okay, but it's going to be ranged attacks at first, and not everybody's got that kind of stuff. If that spider gets a bite in and they fail their fortitude save, then you're going to be rolling death saves pretty fast, I believe. Just because, for example, let's look at basic hit points. It's going to be the same as where you're at right now. These are... Okay, so Ezrin, the wizard, has 16 hit points. It's actually kind of higher than I thought it would be at first level. Marisil has 15, and I believe that is... What bonuses are you getting there? I'd have to look at it. So you wouldn't necessarily die, but you could. Valeros, if he got bit, he'd probably be okay. He had 24 starting hit points, so he could survive a round with the spider. Ezreal or Merciel would not be loving life if they got bit and failed their fortitude save. So there we go. The next part is this barricade. And one thing they did in the adventure that I like to do myself as a DM too is they mentioned that you can make a skill check to kind of tear down this barricade if you want. You're going to succeed at it whether you fail or succeed at that save or that skill check. And I love doing this. I don't like making skill checks where if you fail, then you don't get a chance at whatever you're doing. That's not very fun in the game, and I like that they thought that through here too. If you fail at tearing apart this barricade, all it does is it alerts your party is being loud enough that it alerts the people in the next room so they hear you coming and you can't surprise them, which is something that I like to do too. So when you're dungeon crawling anyway and sneaking around, it's fun to get 2 groups involved in a fight because of something that went wrong, rather than just having somebody not find something that's interesting in the story. That leads them up to the Forgotten Crypt, where they fight the skeletons and the zombies. Here they're going to introduce things like immunities and resistances to attacks. And as the skeletons, they have resistance, and each of the resistances have a number next to them, which I like. I don't have to remember what things are all the time. Here it just says it. They have cold 5, electricity 5, fire 5, piercing 5, slashing 5. That means that they subtract 5 from any damage of those types, which is nice. It also gives you some flexibility that you could have 5 or 10 or whatever. So tougher monsters, instead of just having just straight resistance like it is in D&D where it's just half, those can go higher or lower respective to what levels people are fighting at, which is nice too, because then you can take as a DM, I like that flexibility, because I like to take basic type things and make them harder. So you have like an expert, say you've got a skeleton who is the reanimated skeleton of some general or some great fighter. It's fun to take what looks like a really easy skeleton and then surprise the players with something that makes them a little bit harder. So they hit harder, or in this case, maybe I'd give them more resistance to things because they might be a specially reanimated skeleton with and we could level up the difficulties that way while they're still fighting really simple things. They also have zombies, which have weaknesses. Zombies are weak to slashing, so they'll take an extra 5 damage. They're also weak to positive damage, which I believe would probably be, that's going to be like radiant damage, I believe, in Pathfinder, and the D&D equivalent would probably be something like that. So that's what's going to be in the Forgotten Crypt. And then, like I said, this is probably about as far as I think they're going to get, is down here at the shrine, unless they don't go up to the crypt. And if they don't go up to the crypt, then we'll probably make it to the next room after that. But this is the shrine in the middle. This Forgotten Shrine is where I'll probably end the adventure next time. They have a place where they can drink some water from a bowl that's put up there. If they can use some spells like detect magic. This will be the first time that they could do something like that and actually succeed at it. And they would sense the presence of magic and from the bowl that's on this altar here. Anyone who drinks from the bowl regains 1d8 hit points, but they must roll a DC 20 fortitude save. If they fail, the ocean's wave crashes through their stomach, which makes them feel sick for the next hour, and they take a -1 status penalty to all d20 rolls, their armor class and spell DCs until the hour is passed. If they succeed, they feel the power of the ocean surge through them, and in the next hour they can call upon the ocean's might to fortify themselves against harm. This power is a reaction that the hero can use when hit by a critical hit on an attack. It turns a critical success into an ordinary success. At some point along the line here, one of your characters is going to roll a crit or get a critical success. And we should talk about how Pathfinder handles those differently than D&D 5e2, because I'll have to explain that to everybody in the group as well. In this case, if you can beat the difficulty check of something by 10 or higher, then instead of a success, you get a critical success. A critical success is going to double the damage that it does to somebody, or half the damage that you take from something. Say you're making a dexterity save to avoid a fireball. If you can get critical success on your saving throw, then it'll reduce again by half the amount of damage you would take from that fireball, which is kind of cool too. So, and that applies to any combat or skill check as well. And the DM gets some latitude in defining what a critical success it means in a bunch of different things. Rolling a 20 on a 20-sided die is a natural crit still. It takes it from any attack from a success to a critical success. So even if you, or it takes a miss to a regular success. So if you were to try to hit something who's, say you've got a +1 to hit, and their armor class is a 21, it's a 22, even if you roll a 20, it's going to move that failure to a success. Not a crit success, but at least a success where you still hit it. And even if you don't beat something by 10 or higher, but you still roll a 20, then it's still a crit, and you still go to critical success and double your damage. So in that sense, it's pretty similar. It's just that they're calling things by different names, and they're giving you the option to get crits just by rolling naturally as well. Say you've got a plus, let's say you've got a +5 to hit something. Their armor class is a 14, and you roll a 19. Then 19 plus 5 is 24. You beat it by 10 points, which makes a 19 a crit against somebody with a 14 armor class as well. So there you go. More chances to get crits. Players are going to love that. Hopefully for DMs, that also happens with DMs a lot, and I get to have some crits as well. If we do make it past that, there's some kobolds to fight in this storeroom, and we'll go on to that. Let's see. The main thing you learn here is that kobolds will try to flank the heroes. And so flanking is back. Flanking, where it was gone in 5th edition, was a big part of 3rd edition and 4th edition. And anytime you could get into flanking position there was huge. And that's mainly the whole point of of moving around in fights was to make sure that you were flanking with somebody else. In 5th edition, it only matters for rogues with their sneak attack. And even then, it's not really flanking. It's just having somebody close to your other person. In this case, flanking gives them a -2 penalty to armor class. Makes them flat-footed, basically, what we were reading before. And the kobolds are going to try and flank the heroes. The heroes can try and flank the kobolds. It'll be great. And yeah. They also get a magic weapon if they can beat the kobolds and find and unlock the storage box in there. So that'll be the main reward there. After that, I don't think we'll go on too much more. But in your games, if you do, there are some traps coming up. There's a puzzle in the next room and another treasure vault where you can get some magic items and things like that. No, yep, a scroll of magic missile, stuff like that. So that's all just on the first level. The last level, again, has some traps and kobolds. So you have traps and a fight at the same time, which is kind of fun too. So there you go. That's the first level of this map. I don't think we're going to get down into the second level in 2 hours. I'm almost positive we won't. But if we do, I will wing it, which is what a good DM can do, is supposed to do anyway. So there we go. It should be a really fun little adventure, and we should get some good experience in looking through a bunch of different mechanics that are going to seem really familiar to us, but are not exactly familiar. Okay, some things I wanted to look up. We talked about flanking. That was one of them. I know that opportunity attacks are going to be questions from my players too. So we're going to look up opportunity attacks, and I'm going to read through the list of other actions that people can take just so that I'm familiar with them. And I also need to be kind of familiar with, I like to be really familiar with the names of skills. Because that's the main thing you're going to be rolling for when you're outside of combat. And knowing what skill to plop something down into is super important, something that I pride myself in playing D&D, and I don't know that I'm going to be as familiar with it in Pathfinder, so I want to make sure that I'm up to date on that. So stick around with me. Let's read through some actions and some skills. How about that? Let's look at... This is the Archives of Nethys, which is the Pathfinder what's the SRD stand for? Dang it. What does SRD stand for? System Reference Document? Rules Document? I can't remember what the R is. Anyway, what's fun is that the SRD is all free. Not fun. What's nice is that the SRD is all free. If you ever need to look stuff up, it's easy to search it here on the Archives of Nethys. It's not as pretty looking as D&D Beyond, but I bet it's going to be a lot faster to find stuff in than D&D Beyond is, just because it has so much other extra stuff in there. It's kind of gotten to the point with D&D Beyond where I actually start bringing books like the Player's Handbook and the DMG, just so that I can look stuff up. I have a type of memory that likes to memorize where things are at on pages. Very visual kind of memory that way. And I can do that with books a lot better. I find that if I'm playing just on the computer, I have to open up a bunch of tabs. I'll have a tab just for spells. I'll have a tab just for monsters. I'll have a tab just for magic items. And I'll have a tab open just for other searches I might want to do, just so that I can quickly find things in the D&D rules. And that's fine, but I also liked how when you had a book, I could kind of remember, oh yeah, it's in this section, it's going to be on the bottom left-hand corner of this page, and boom, I could find it that way easier too. And it was usually pretty fast for my type of memory. If you're the type of person that has to use the index all the time, then they can go pretty slow, and maybe searching on the computer is going to be a lot faster. I do like how, for players, D&D Beyond is so much faster looking up spells and that kind of stuff. It's so much nicer. And I don't mind when players bring phones or computers to use for their player sheets. I actually kind of like it a lot because it helps me as a DM. Okay. Game mastering, afflictions, creatures, hazards. Let's look at afflictions. Diseases and poisons. Click here for the full rules on afflictions. No, we don't care about that. I don't think we're going to run into this, except for, like I said, the poison stuff that the spider is going to do. We'll be okay. Let's look at the rules. Actions and activities. Here we go. These are the basic actions. These are the ones that I care about. These symbols, is this big enough you can see it? Yeah, sure it is. We can make it bigger too if you want. There you go. These symbols indicate what type of action they are. This arrow is a reaction that you can do. Reactions happen on other people's turns, not your own. This symbol right here means that it costs 1 action. Some of these are going to, I don't think any of these basic actions are going to have, oh, there's one. Okay, readying an action costs 2 actions. So you can only do one other thing if you're going to ready an action outside of your turn. Oh, I don't know what this symbol is when it's not filled in. Oh, it's a free action. Okay, great. You can do it for free. That makes sense. Okay. Let's look through these. All right. Aid. You can aid somebody. You grant a +2 circumstance bonus with the check. And if you're legendary, it's +4. On a success, you grant an ally +1. Oh, if you're a master, it's +2. Hang on a second. Critical success, you get a +2. Normally, on a normal success, you give a +1 to the bonus of somebody else if you're trying to help them with a task. To use this reaction, you must first prepare to help, usually by using an action during your turn. When you use your aid reaction, you attempt a skill check of a roll type decided by the GM. The typical DC is 20, but they might adjust it for particularly hard or easy tasks. So in the adventure, if somebody aids somebody going down, we'll look at the skill list soon, but if I can find it, it's probably going to be athletics again. But if somebody who is particularly athletic decides to aid somebody else going down, then they would give them a +1. If they get a crit on it, then it'll be a +2, which is nice. And just so we are looking, that's not the same as giving somebody advantage on something. Giving somebody advantage on something is a much bigger advantage, I believe. I think I watched something where somebody was doing the math on stuff, and it actually turns your it might be 20% higher chance of succeeding. In this case, a +1 is only a 5% chance, 5% higher chance of succeeding than what you had before. And that is because if you're rolling a d20, then and each pip is worth 5%. So every one that you get more of is another extra 5% chance to hit or to succeed at what you're doing. But that's fine. It's still a good thing to do, and you can do it whenever you succeed at your aid action, which is probably nicer anyway. It makes things, well, we'll see. I do like advantage. It's really simple to explain to people. Just roll 2 dice and you take the highest one. Everybody catches on to it after the second or third time. You can crawl. You move 5 feet by crawling, and you continue to stay prone. All right. You can delay an action. You just move yourself down in the initiative order. That's something that you can do in D&D as well. Drop prone is an action. You fall prone. Prone gives you bonuses to your AC on ranged attacks. And you take a -2 bonus on your attack rolls. But that's an action. You can try to escape. You can attempt to escape from being grabbed, immobilized, or restrained. There you go. That's going to be, when you're grappling somebody, Typically athletics DC of person grabbing you. Yeah. So a lot like grappling in D&D. The grappling is one of the things that I used to have to look up the rules for all the time. So here it's you grapple somebody, grab somebody, and then they try and escape. That's the action they take. Interact with something. All right. Opening doors or grabbing an unintended or stored object is an action. I think that's fine because this is something you might do as a bonus action in D&D anyway. In this case, you could spend all three things to interact with three things. If everybody's fighting around you and you have to identify the right knob on a door to try and open it, you get 3 chances to do that. Something like that. Invest an item. Sounds like something magical. Yep. Leaping. I keep mousing over that, sorry. You take a short jump. There's the rules for it. You can leap up to 10 feet horizontally if your speed is at least 15 feet, or up to 15 if your speed is at least 30 feet. And if you leap vertically, so the rules are right in there for it. Requires an athletics check. Let's see, here's our first one that requires 2 actions. So this is something I'm going to want to remember. This is something as a player, I typically do a lot. That's just I ready an action for some kind of trigger for somebody to get close or something. I like to let other people waste their movement to get close to me. So that's just my style in fighting. Releasing something, dropping something to the ground is a free action. Oh, here we go. Attack of opportunity. That's coming up somewhere. I'm just going to open that in a new link just so I can get to it. Seeking. You scan the area for signs of creatures or objects. So this is something that I didn't like about 5th edition is that I can never decide when people need to be making an investigation check or a perception check. And I go back and forth on that all the time. Because they will mix up the rules for that. Or in stories and adventures and stuff, they will make you roll an investigation check to do research in the library and make an investigation check to find a trap. And I think I'm playing that wrong. I think that's one that I get wrong all the time. And I prefer just having a perception check and just make that what it is. And then if you're investigating something else, then use whatever skill is most appropriate for it. So if it's something you're trying to research, then use a history check or a lore check. In Pathfinder, it's called lore. If it's interrogating somebody, like asking around questions and stuff, yes, you're investigating, but you should be making diplomacy checks where you're either persuading people or intimidating people or lying, deceiving people. So I'm not a big fan of the investigation action anyway, or skill anyway in 5th edition. Here we have seek, sense motive, stand up as an action. Okay, same thing as 5th edition. Taking a step. You carefully move 5 feet. It doesn't trigger reactions such as attacks of opportunity. Here again. So this is like a disengage. You can't step into difficult terrain, and you can't step using a speed other than your land speed. Okay, whatever. You're just carefully moving around. Stride is moving your full speed. Oh, sorry. Strike. You attack with a weapon you're wielding with an unarmed attack. Or with an unarmed attack. Okay, great. And you deal double damage on critical successes. That's just, again, just one. It doesn't mention it in here, but that's also the attack rules where if you make more than one attack, you're going to take a -5 or a -4, or -5 or -10 on each additional one. And take cover. So that's called kind of like a move, but in order to this is a little bit more crunchy and a little more difficult than than 5th edition. You don't just move behind something, you actually like duck and you take cover in order to get the bonus to the cover from AC. Otherwise, you get standard cover, which is a +2. Okay, so if you're actually going to take cover, you get a +4 bonus to AC. If you are just behind something that's covered, you get a +2 bonus instead. That's not bad. That's not too complicated. And specialty basic actions. Activate an item. This one doesn't have... Oh, it says it's going to be listed on different items what type of action it takes to do that with. Arrest a fall. Oh, if you're falling from flying. Avert gaze is an action. All right. So like looking away from Medusas. In fact, that's what it says. There you go. Burrow, if you have a special ability to dig through stuff. Casting a spell is the big one. Most spells are going to be 2 actions. Some will be 3 actions, and it's going to list what types of things you need: material, somatic, and verbal things. So easy spells like that you would normally cast as bonus actions in D&D just cost 1 action here. Typical spells cost 2 actions, and it looks like some of them will even cost 3 actions. And then if it's a reaction type thing, it'll have the reaction symbol next to it. Those symbols make it really easy to recognize what you have to do with each spell. I like that a lot. I wonder how I would like draw this. If I was writing down spells in just on a paper, I would probably try and organize them based on how many actions they take. I wonder how the character sheets do that here. Dismiss flies, grab an edge, mount, point out something. You indicate a creature that you can see to one or more allies. So, I would rather just call that a free action in 5th edition. Here it is a hidden creature. I guess you're supposedly explaining it to somebody too, but that seems like a really expensive thing to do in action economy wise. Okay. Raise a shield, sustain a spell, sustain it as an action. Okay, that's cool. Sustain an activation. All right. Let's look at... It's funny that they mentioned attack of opportunities. I guess it's not a basic action. Is it an activity? No. We're going to just read attack of opportunity then. Okay. A creature within your reach uses a manipulate action or a move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves a square doing a move action it's using. So this is great. It's going to happen a lot more often than what it does in 5th edition because typically that's only going to happen when they move out of a square that they're engaged with. But they can move around you. Here, anytime they take a move action, when they are within reach, you get an attack of opportunity. So you need to be careful that you get into position early, or take a careful step and use that to move around people. So I guess you still have that option. It's just a little crunchier, probably a little bit harder to explain to people in this. Like, well, if you're only moving 5 feet, then you can do that. You can actually do that 2 or 3 times if you're being careful. That won't give you an attack of opportunity. So, I don't know. It seems a little bit harder to explain, but is essentially the same thing, except that they also specify using a manipulate action. If you must physically manipulate an item or make gestures to use an action with this trait. Creatures without a suitable appendage can't perform actions with this trait. So manipulate would also encompass trying to cast spells. If you're right next to somebody and try and cast a spell that you have to make gestures for, then they would get an attack of opportunity against you. If you are monkeying around with a lock and somebody's standing right next to you, they get an attack of opportunity. So that's kind of nice. There you go. That's good. That's the one that I wanted to know most of all. Flanking, we already looked up. I'll just remind people. Again, the search is a lot better in here because you're not searching through as much. Obviously, if you want to look up special magic items and things that aren't in the core rules and aren't in the SRD, then you'll need other references for those. But I really like being able to search through here because it's just plain text and it's just fast and easy to do. It would be nice if there was something like that built into D&D Beyond itself that just said, just search the core rules. All I care about is the DMG and the player's handbook. If anybody knows of how to do that, then let me know. Otherwise, what I end up doing is just Googling it and putting 5e at the end of something and then reading it off of some other SRD that's got it. Okay. When you and an ally are flanking, the creature becomes flat-footed. They get a -2 penalty to AC. And then some other things like I'm sure the rogue's sneak attacks say if a target is flat-footed, then they get to use their sneak attack stuff. If you're wielding a reach weapon, you may use your reach with that weapon for this purpose. Great, yeah. So having reach also makes you flanking somebody. Here is a little chart just to illustrate who's flanking what. Valeros and Kira are flanking because they are on opposite sides. They can draw a line through it. Mauricio and Valeros are not flanking, and this is why it got kind of crunchy in D&D, and I think this is probably why they got rid of it. So Mauricio and Valeros are not flanking because they're not directly on the opposite sides of it. And then the Ogre 3, the Hobgoblin and the Ogre are flanking Sione because the Ogre has reach and the Hobgoblin is directly across from it. So that counts as flanking as well. There you go. Flanking rules, those are going to come up, and obviously attacks of opportunity are going to come up. Is there anything I need to know about for like spells and spell casting that I might be able to find really easy? Oh, a GM screen. That's awesome. A digital GM screen. I was just talking about this, and here it is. You've got your basic actions, specialty basic actions, conditions. Oh, all the conditions are right there. That's awesome. Death and dying rules are right there. I love this website so much already. Hero points. Looks like these are rerolls and advantages. Each player starts with a hero point at the beginning. I forgot about these rules. That's nice. And then every hour or so, if they do something heroic, they get another hero point. That's kind of fun. It's like inspiration points, but in fact, it's exactly like inspiration points. There you go. Except that you use the second result, which you get to re-roll it, so you're not rolling at the same time anyway. It's actually a little bit better than inspiration because you can save it for when you actually need it. There you go. Icon key, turns, unconscious, skills, nice. Oh, this is awesome that they have charts on creature identification things. That's fun. If they have spell charts too, that would be awesome. Skill actions. Is this a list of all the skills now, finally? Great. That's what I need to see. Statecraft, stealth, survival, thievery, trade, warfare, wilderness. And I can just mouse over and see what they each are. Treat wounds. Oh, awesome. Treat wounds is fun. You can actually help people regain some hit points by just treating their wounds. And you don't necessarily have to be a cleric to help out the party. This is kind of taking the place of having a short rest in 5th edition, except you're actually rolling for it, which I like too. I think players regain hit points too easy in 5th edition. This is my opinion. And it makes clerics kind of dumb because they can just regain their own hit points whenever they want, dang it. So Yeah, cleric's not as useful because every time I see this happen every time is that players will metagame whether or not they need the cleric to heal them or to make an attack on somebody. They'll say, I think I'll survive, and then we can take a short rest. And then I can heal it myself. It's kind of goofy to me. I prefer that clerics be more important. In this case, you have to roll for it and get a success on something. You have to be trained in it in order to be able to do it, first of all. And but being able to treat wounds is much more important and much more, not realistic. It's never realistic. It's a fantasy game. But at least it's reliant on a skill that you're trying to do to help somebody. There you go. Let's see. We have environment stuff, game master stuff, like creature numbers. What is that? Oh, okay. So some basic, wow, this is great. So if I'm trying to come up with a challenge rating creature that I just want to come up with on my own, then we have what their basic skill in something that they are skillful in, what their armor class would be. Man, armor classes get really high. That tells me that people's attacks are going to be really high, which is kind of fun. What their saves are, medium, high, and low. Okay. How many average hit points they might have, and what they're doing to hit. Yeah, look at this. Monster's getting plus 30 to hit at level 15. That is some big numbers. I like it. And then what their spell DCs and attacks might be. That's a fun chart. Really useful just for on-the-fly monsters you might have to come up with. XP rewards. Here we go. Yeah, let's learn about leveling up. Because this, again, is looking like you're just trying to get to 1,000 every time, and then once you get to 1,000, you level up. Huh. That's what this looks like to me. Is that what... I got this right? Tell me in the comments. Let me know. You're just trying to get to 1,000 every time. Here's how much XP you get based on how hard the challenge rating is. If he's greater than the party by 4, you get 160 each. And yeah, okay. Where's leveling up? Wait, let's finish this. Reference lists and tables, weapon traits. Cool. All these are in here as well. I love this. I love that there's a digital GM screen. That's awesome. Why is there not one of these for 5th edition? I bet there is somewhere. I just haven't gone looking for it. I will find it, though. But this is exactly what we need. Player's guide. It's how to play. And rules index. It's just looking up stuff. The monster manual is all part of... The basic monster manual is all part of the SRD in here as well, which is great. Level up. Leveling up. Chapter 1. Okay, I'm reading, so hang on a second. Yeah, it's only 1,000. Huh. Every time you gain a level, make sure you do each of the following. Increase your level by 1 and subtract 1,000 XP from your XP total. Increase your maximum hit points. Add class features. Select feats. Add spells and spell slots. Increase all your proficiency bonuses by 1. That's why the 2-hit stuff is getting so high, because your proficiency bonuses are going up every time. Adjust bonuses from feats and other abilities that are based on your level. Yeah. So... I was right, and was right to be confused because this is so different from what I've been used to playing anywhere. I kind of like it because it's going to be really easy to just tell people what XP they get in the middle of as they're going along. Or you can still add it up at the very end or whatever. But it means that you don't necessarily have to do milestone. Let me think this through. Yeah, we don't have to do milestone leveling up. Are people going to level up really fast, though? I guess we'll have to play and find out. That's another one to leave me a comment on. How often do you end up leveling up in Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Is it fast? It seems fast. And maybe it's not. But let's say you're fighting at the party level, which I never do. I always do party level +1 or +2. So 80 XP. That's 10 encounters is 800 to 11 is 880. 960 is 12. 13 encounters, 13 fights, and then you level up every time. Is this per person in the group, or is it per... Huh. 13 fights. Let's say per session, you maybe do 2 or 3. Maybe just 2, unless you're playing... If you're playing 4 hours, you probably get 3 or 4 fights in, depending on what you're exploring and stuff. So you level up every 4 sessions? Seems fast to me. Let me know what you think, but that seems kind of fast. Maybe I'm doing the math wrong on that. Who knows? Okay, but that's how it works in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. There's a lot of fun stuff. The higher level you get, the higher and higher you get in levels. So maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's what the players want. But that's exciting. Okay. All right, that answers all my questions for next week. I've got the adventure ready for as far as I think we're going to get. I can wing it after that because I've got maps and I've got plenty of assets and stuff I can throw in there. My library. Again, this is just a shout out. They're not sponsoring me or anything like that, but I love 2 Minute Tabletop for all of their tokens and all of their maps. I am on their Patreon, and it's worth every $4 a month that you have to be just for the basic level. And if you want even more options on there, it's really great. So yeah, check them out if you like this style, which I do because I play with a lot of like family-friendly kind of stuff, and it's kind of goofy. Even though they're scary, this is something you would find in like Plants vs. Zombies kind of style, right? Where it's not as scary as you think. If you like something more scary and more realistic style, then find someplace else. But this is just really easy and really fast and not expensive at all to support him. So yeah, give 2 Minute Tabletop a chance. The maps in here are what I really love, though. They're really great and really useful. So, okay. And they would work for Pathfinder or D&D or any fantasy game you're playing. It's going to be rules agnostic there. All right, we're all set for next week. If you are excited to learn and see what a session in Pathfinder is like, then tune in, and we will play through for you. Be happy to answer any questions as we're going along. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's get back to this. Okay. There I am. I'm big again. Thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate you and hope that we get to see you next week. So same bat time, same bat channel, and we look forward to getting together with our group. I am looking for a new 4th regular player. So if you are interested in playing with us, send me an email at dragonskeeptv@gmail.com, and I will be happy to talk to you and get you in either as a regular player if it's something that works with your schedule, or even as a guest. We'd love having guests on the stream as well. If you want to play with us next week, you can send me an email quick this week, and we'll see what we can do. Probably be really easy to get you in this next week. So if you're seeing this and watching it on YouTube, which will be up on YouTube tomorrow, then send me an email, and we'd be happy to play with you. And really, it's a blast. So We'll see you guys next week. Have fun, and stop by and check out the stores. We're in the Orem. We're in the basement of the Orem store, but you can also stop by Provo, Lehigh, and Spanish Fork, and check out any of the stores there too. Thanks again, and we will see you next week. Bye.